Good morning. This is Marshall Davis. It is a cold and snowy weekend up here in New Hampshire, as it is in most of the country this weekend. Too cold to go outside, so seems like a good time to do an episode. I haven't done one for a while now, but I'm going to continue to do one every once in a while. Today I'm going to talk about non-dual pointing. Non-duality is about pointing. We can't describe ultimate reality, but we can point to it. This idea is repeated often. You have undoubtedly heard many times the Zen proverb about not mistaking the finger pointing to the moon for the moon itself. And this is helpful. It helps us look beyond ideas, words, doctrines, beliefs, in order to know reality directly. What is not often talked about is that pointing can itself be a barrier to seeing this reality. It can be a barrier to spiritual awakening. Pointing can be misleading. It assumes that reality is over there somewhere, in the direction we're pointing. Pointing is therefore mispointing, you could call it. Let me give you an example. I read non-duality books on occasion to see what people are saying and, more importantly, how they are saying it. And I'm reading a book now on non-duality. I'm not going to give the title or the author because I do not want this to be a critique of this particular book or teacher. It's a short book, less than 100 pages, but it's a good book, and it presents the standard fare that you get in most non-duality books, complete with a set of exercises to help people see directly what's being said. In one chapter, this teacher is pointing out how we can see that we are not a little self inside a body, but the open, spacious awareness in which everything, including the body and the world, appear. Over and over again, he repeats the same words, and I'll quote directly here. He says, "You're not the one inside the body. You're the spacious awareness in which all sensations and thoughts appear." I'm sure you've heard things like this before. We're not in the body is in us. We're not in the world is in us. And this can be helpful to get us beyond thinking about ourselves as a separate self in a separate body in an objective world that is out there somewhere. The problem is that pointing is itself a dualistic exercise. It presupposes that there is a place where we can stand and point to another place. It's like in that Zen proverb that we're on earth and the moon is up there and the finger is somewhere in between. That's dualistic. The truth is there is no here and there. There's no inside and outside. We are one. Let's talk about inside and outside confuses the matter. It does not help to exchange a worldview that says that we are inside the body for one that says the body is inside us. It is no good to exchange a worldview that says we are in the world for one that says the world is in us. Both worldviews are dualistic and therefore misleading. Another misleading pointer is the use of the word consciousness. Now, this author talks a lot about consciousness, saying that most people assume that consciousness arises from the body, specifically from the brain. But he says it doesn't. He says it's the other way around. I'll quote the book directly here. He writes, "What if we have been looking at it the wrong way? What if consciousness is not created by the body, but is the open space in which the body and everything else appears? If that feels strange at first, ask yourself a simple question. What's the one constant thing that's always been here? Your body has changed, your thoughts have come and gone, even your sense of who you are has shifted over time, but one thing has always been here, quietly noticing everything that comes and goes. Consciousness. Consciousness, your true nature, is the spacious awareness in which everything appears." Now that's the end of the quote. Now that sounds pretty good. But it comes down to what we mean by consciousness. And as I read this book and books like that, it seems like the authors are talking about the human expression of consciousness. Human consciousness is not our true nature any more than the human body is our true nature. Think about what the author wrote. Is it really true that human consciousness has always been here? No. Human consciousness arose with humans. It did not exist before humans. But divine consciousness, or cosmic consciousness, to use Buck's famous term, is always present. Human consciousness is not. I wish there was another word besides consciousness to describe this divine reality from which consciousness arises and takes expression in all sorts of animal and human consciousness. Now, the Christian Bible, Christian Hebrew Bible, and Greek Bible avoids this problem by not talking about consciousness. It uses words like life, or spirit, or light, the breath of life, the Spirit of God. And talking about Christ, the apostle wrote, "In him was life, and the life was the light of men." I like those words. And I like words like intelligence, or awareness, or being. But a lot of people today talk about consciousness. So we need to use that word, at least some, and we have to be careful, though, how we use it. Intelligence is a fundamental building block of the universe. It is inherent in the nature of the universe. The tiniest one-celled organism with one little flagellum that enables it to swim around has intelligence. Plants have intelligence that allows them to open and close and follow the sun. This is part of the fabric of the universe. That is how life emerges from matter. Life is expression of this intelligence. It's in all matter, including inanimate matter. The more complex the organism, the more complex the consciousness that emerges from this cosmic intelligence. Different types of consciousness arose through evolution, through adaptation with the environment, to the environment. Human consciousness does emerge from the brain, but it emerges as it adapts to the environment, as experienced through our five senses. But it emerges from the brain only because intelligence is already present in the matter that our whole bodies are made of. It's inherent in the substance, if you will, of the universe that makes up our body. It's just being expressed in a more complex way in brains and in the human brain. Awareness is one with the universal intelligence, or divine mind, which is deep within us and all around us. That is why it's misleading to have to choose between the world in us or us in the world. We don't have to choose, because we are the world. The world is us. It's not either or. Both are true. Furthermore, non-dual awareness is much more than human consciousness. Let me give a personal example here. I lose consciousness on occasion. For example, a few months ago, I passed out in the bathroom 3 times in a row. And it bloodied up my face from hitting the tile floor. I looked like a real mess. My wife called the doctor's office and they said to go to the ER to get checked out, so I did. The hospitalist was certain that the syncope, which is what they call these episodes, was caused by my heart, because I do have a condition where my heartbeat is irregular. And this happens once or twice every day. And I thought maybe this was a particularly bad episode that caused the fainting, and that's reasonable. So there was test after test that day. They wanted to keep me in the hospital, but I didn't want to do that because I knew what it was, I thought. Anyway, the test kept going on for weeks after that until they determined once again that it was not my heart. Now, I told them from the very beginning that I did not think that this was my heart, because this has happened before, these episodes of syncope. Not often. They happen several years apart. But it always has to do with getting overheated from temperature or physical exertion. It happened first when I was a teenager, so it's been going on for 60 years. So I know what it is, and I know how to prevent it if I am careful to pay attention to the warning signs, pay attention to my body. Now, I'm just saying this to tell you that I'm very familiar with losing consciousness. And just think about that phrase, losing consciousness. If you can lose consciousness, then consciousness is not the one thing that has always been here, as this author says. Human consciousness is not present when we are unconscious. It is not present when I faint, or when I'm in deep, dreamless sleep, or under anesthesia. That consciousness comes and goes. So human consciousness is not permanent. It's not always been here. It comes at birth, or maybe before birth in the womb. It emerges in these first couple of years. It develops into what we know as human consciousness, and then it's gone for good at death. My personal human consciousness dies with this body. But what I really am does not die. The underlying, larger, universal intelligence, call this God or the divine if you want, that gave birth to my personal consciousness continues. It continues in all other humans. It continues in all other creatures on earth. This primordial and eternal awareness or intelligence, some call this the divine mind, is what I really am. So I do not die with the end of my personal, individual, human consciousness. But it seems that a lot of people talking about non-duality these days seem to confuse human consciousness, which is temporary, with permanent non-dual awareness. They confuse ordinary consciousness with God consciousness or Christ consciousness. And people play tricks of perspective in human consciousness, and they say that's awakening. That is misleading. That's a point in the wrong direction. Non-dual awareness is much deeper, and it is subtle and profound, and it is permanent. It is always present. We can be, and really are, always aware of this, and more accurately aware as this. It does not change when this body passes in or out of consciousness, or when it's in deep sleep, or when it dies. Now, we know this intuitively. We know every morning when we wake up that we did not cease to exist when we were unconsciousness. That which did not cease to exist is what we are. And our consciousness rests in this true nature during deep sleep. That deep awareness is non-dual awareness, unitive awareness. Human consciousness changes, but the foundational mind of the universe does not change. This universal light or life is what we really are. Human consciousness is just a temporary expression of it. This one reality cannot be pointed to because we are too close to it. We are it. If we try pointing, we point to ourselves. And that's where we're getting in trouble. That's why Jesus is in trouble. You know, I am that I am. All we can say, really, when it comes down to it, is this is it. Right here, this is it. Which is what Tony Parsons says, which is why I like him. He just laughs and smiles. He just says over and over again, this is all there is. This is it. Because he gets it. So we either do that, which is basically almost like saying nothing, or we actually do say nothing, because we can't really say anything about this. Or if we decide to speak, we try pointers. But to point presupposes that there are two. A place where we are, a place we want to get to. Pointing presupposes duality. It presupposes here and there. Reality is non-dual. There is nowhere but here. Therefore, all pointing is ultimately pointless. But we point nonetheless, as I'm doing today. That is my pointless pointing for today. Grace and peace to you.